Pan and Atlas. If I told you this was a leaked photo of a UFO caught near Saturn, you'd probably believe me. It's got a metallic-looking disk, a weird bulging center, and a sharp manufactured edge. In a universe where gravity is supposed to crush everything into a perfect sphere, this object looks like a glitch in the system. But this isn't a ship, it's a moon, specifically a 21-mile-wide world called Pan. Along with its neighbor Atlas, these are the famous ravioli moons of Saturn. For years, their bizarre flying saucer shapes have forced astronomers to rethink how planets and moons are actually built. Deep within Saturn's rings, the environment is crowded and chaotic. Pan and Atlas do not orbit in empty space. They live inside the Anki Gap, a massive lane they have cleared themselves. They are known as shepherd moons, using their gravity to patrol the rings like wide vacuum cleaners. As they orbit, they suck up loose ice and dust particles to keep their lanes clear. In a normal environment, this dust would coat the moon evenly, like falling snow. But because Saturn is so close, its massive gravitational tug blocks the particles from reaching the poles. The dust has only one place to land, the equator. Layer after layer, for millions of years, this space debris piles up into a massive frozen skirt. On Atlas, this ridge of space garbage is so enormous that it makes up 25% of the moon's total volume. If you were to chip away at that sharp edge, you wouldn't find ancient stone. You would find compressed ring ice, captured from the void just a few million years ago. Even today, the process continues, and the ridges grow larger. Janus and Epimetheus. Imagine two massive objects, moving at thousands of miles per hour, heading directly toward a head-on collision. In any other part of the universe, this would end in a catastrophic explosion, leaving nothing but a cloud of debris. But every 4 years, these two moons do something that scientists once thought was physically impossible. Instead of crashing, they swap places. These are Janus and Epimetheus. For decades, astronomers were confused because they kept seeing a moon appear in two different places at once. They eventually realized they weren't looking at one moon, but two dancing partners locked in a cosmic game of chicken that defies the standard rules of orbital mechanics. Janus and Epimetheus share almost the exact same orbit around Saturn, separated by only 30 miles, a distance so small that in space terms they are practically touching. Because they are so close, gravity begins to pull them together as they approach. But instead of a collision, a strange gravitational handoff occurs. The orbital dance of Janus and Epimetheus begins with Janus on the inner track, which is the fast lane, and Epimetheus on the outer track, the slow lane. Because Janus is moving faster, it slowly closes the gap, catching up to Epimetheus from behind until a collision seems certain. However, as they get close, their gravity begins to tug on one another. Janus is pulled forward by the gravity of Epimetheus. This boost of energy lifts Janus up into the outer, slower track. Simultaneously, Epimetheus is tugged backward by Janus. This loss of energy causes it to drop into the inner, faster track. The instant they swap lanes, the roles reverse. Epimetheus, which is still in front, is now in the fast lane and suddenly accelerates away. Janus is now in the slow lane and begins to lag behind. They trade speeds and orbits without ever passing each other, effectively bouncing apart to start the cycle all over again. This orbital swap is a perfect clockwork cycle that has been happening for billions of years. Every 1,460 days, they perform this high-speed trade, never once touching, but never moving apart. This dance is so precise that if either moon were just 1% larger or 1% smaller, the delicate balance would break, and they would likely pull each other into a death spiral. Scientists believe these two moons weren't always separate. Their chemical composition is nearly identical, suggesting they are the shattered heart of a single, much larger moon that was ripped apart by a massive impact in Saturn's early history. They are essentially two halves of a ghost, forever chasing each other around the planet but destined to never be whole again. Iapetus. If you saw this moon through a telescope for the first time, you'd think your lens was broken. One half of the moon is as bright as freshly fallen snow, while the other is as dark as charcoal. It's a world literally split down the middle, a perfect high-contrast divide that shouldn't exist in nature. But the colors aren't even the weirdest part. This is Iapetus. For over 300 years since it was first discovered in 1671, it has been known as the yin-yang moon of Saturn. While its two-toned face is what catches your eye, it's a massive geometric structure running across its equator that has led some to speculate that this isn't a natural moon at all, but something built, Running directly along the center of Iapetus is a colossal mountain range known as the Equatorial Ridge. It is a wall of solid rock that wraps almost perfectly around the moon's middle. In many places, the ridge is over 12 miles high, more than twice the height of Mount Everest. From a distance, this ridge gives the moon the exact shape of a giant walnut. Scientists are still debating how a mountain range this massive could form in such a perfect straight line. One theory suggests that Iapetus once had its own sub-moon or a ring system, similar to Saturn's. Gravity eventually pulled those rings down, crashing them into the surface. Imagine a mountain range built not from tectonic plates pushing up, but from billions of tons of space debris falling from the sky in a single straight line. The mystery of its colors is just as strange. Iapetus is tidally locked, meaning the same side always faces forward as it orbits. It acts like a giant windshield, sweeping up dark, reddish dust from other moons in its path. This dark coating creates a thermal runaway effect. The dark side absorbs heat, causing ice to evaporate and settle on the cold, bright side. It is a world that is effectively cleaning one half of itself while burying the other in soot. Mimas. In 1977, the filmmaker George Lucas released Star Wars, introducing the world to the Death Star, a fictional, moon-sized space station capable of destroying entire planets. It was famous for its massive circular superlaser dish. 3 years later, NASA's Voyager 1 sent back the first close-up images of Saturn's moon, Mimas. The world was stunned. There, staring back at the cameras, was a moon that looked exactly like the fictional weapon of mass destruction. But as scientists looked closer, they realized the Death Star resemblance was actually the least interesting thing about it. This is Mimas. It is a small frozen world, barely 250 miles wide, dominated by a single colossal impact crater named Herschel. The crater is so large that by all laws of physics, the impact that created it should have shattered Mimas into a billion pieces. Yet the moon survived, and what's happening beneath its surface today is even more confusing. For decades, Mimas was described as a dead moon, a silent frozen rock with no geological activity. Because it is so close to Saturn, astronomers assumed any heat would have escaped billions of years ago. However, recent data from the Cassini mission revealed a wobble in its rotation that shouldn't be there. This tiny rhythmic vibration suggests that Mimas isn't a solid block of ice at all. Deep beneath that battered, cratered crust between 12 and 18 miles down, scientists now believe there is a hidden liquid water ocean. This stealth ocean makes up nearly half of the moon's total volume. On a moon this small, an ocean of that size should have frozen solid eons ago. Its existence defies every model we have for how small moons evolve. The mystery lies in its eccentric orbit. As Mimas moves around Saturn, the planet's massive gravity stretches and squeezes the moon like a stress ball. This tidal flexing creates friction, which generates just enough heat to keep the water liquid. It is a world that looks like a desolate graveyard on the outside, but hides a vast, churning sea on the inside. Mimas is a moon of contradictions. It survived an impact that should have erased it from history, and it keeps an ocean warm in a place where it should be impossible. Miranda. If you were to design a moon in a laboratory, it would look nothing like this. Miranda doesn't look like a typical spherical moon. It looks like a Frankenstein world, a chaotic patchwork of canyons, ridges, and craters that seem to belong to 10 different moons at once. It is the most geologically mangled object in the solar system, and for years, scientists had a terrifying theory to explain why. They believed this moon had actually been blown apart and reassembled. Orbiting Uranus nearly 2 billion miles from Earth, Miranda is a small moon, only about 290 miles across. But size isn't what makes it famous. It's the chevron, a massive, bright V-shaped scar on its surface that looks so geometric and artificial it once fueled theories of ancient alien mining operations. The surface of Miranda is a nightmare of extreme terrain. It features coronae, massive oval-shaped features that look like giant racetracks carved into the ice. Some scientists suggest that these were formed by internal churning, where warmer ice rose to the surface like a lava lamp. But the sheer violence of the landscape led to a more radical idea, that Miranda was hit by a massive object, shattered into fragments, and then gravity slowly pulled those pieces back together in a random, disorganized pile. The most terrifying feature on Miranda is Verona Rupes. It is a vertical cliff face that drops 12 miles into the darkness. To put that in perspective, if you were to jump off the top, it would take you full 12 minutes to hit the bottom because of the moon's low gravity. It is the tallest cliff in the known solar system, making the Grand Canyon look like a shallow crack in the pavement. The mystery of Miranda lies in its energy. Uranus doesn't have the same massive gravitational tug that Saturn or Jupiter uses to heat their moons. By all accounts, Miranda should be a cold, inactive ball of ice. Yet its surface is more distorted and active-looking than almost anything else we've found. Enceladus. If you were to look at Saturn's rings through a powerful telescope, you might notice a faint, ghost-like circle of white fog on the very edge of the system. For a long time, astronomers couldn't figure out where this E-ring was coming from. It seemed to be replenishing itself from nothing. Then, in 2005, the Cassini spacecraft flew past a tiny, brilliant white moon and found the source of the fog. This is Enceladus. It is a world that looks like a polished marble of pure ice. It is so white and so reflective that it acts like a giant mirror, bouncing 99% of the sunlight that hits it back into space. Because of this, it is one of the coldest places in the solar system, with temperatures hovering at a lethal -180 degrees Celsius. But don't let the frozen silent surface fool you. Enceladus is hiding a violent internal engine that defies the laws of deep space chemistry. At the moon's south pole, the smooth ice crust is torn apart by 4 massive glowing blue gashes known as the tiger stripes. These are not just cracks. They are pressurized vents that lead directly into the moon's heart. Through these openings, it shoots massive plumes of water vapor and ice crystals into the vacuum of space at over 1,200 miles per hour. These geysers are so powerful that they launch enough material to create an entire ring around Saturn. For years, this shouldn't have been possible. A moon this small, barely 300 miles wide, should have frozen solid billions of years ago. It should be a dead rock, but Enceladus is caught in a gravitational tug-of-war between Saturn and a larger moon, Dione. This constant stretching and squeezing, called tidal heating, generates a terrifying amount of friction in the core. It's the same physics as bending a paperclip back and forth until the metal gets too hot to touch. Beneath that 20-mile thick shell of ice, there is a global, pitch-black ocean, and this is where the mystery turns into a biological puzzle. When Cassini flew directly through the plumes, it tasted the water. It didn't just find ice, it found salts, sand, and organic molecules. Even more shocking, it found evidence of hydrothermal vents, towering chimneys on the dark ocean floor that spew hot, mineral-rich water. On Earth, these are the exact environments where life is thought to have started. Io. If the other moons of the solar system are frozen graveyards, Io is a literal hellscape. When the Voyager probes first sent back images of this moon, scientists thought their cameras were malfunctioning. Instead of the usual blue and white ice we see in the outer solar system, Io looked like a moldy pizza, a chaotic neon-colored mess of sulfur yellow, vivid orange, and deep black. This is the innermost of Jupiter's large moons, and it is the most geologically violent object in the known universe. Io is roughly the same size as our own moon, but the two couldn't be more different. While our moon has been dead for billions of years, Io is constantly turning itself inside out. The danger of Io comes from its location. It is trapped in a brutal gravitational vice. On one side, the massive gravity of Jupiter, the largest planet in the solar system, is constantly pulling on it. On the other side, 2 large neighboring moons, Europa and Ganymede, are pulling back. This creates a phenomenon called tidal bulging. The solid surface of Io actually rises and falls by as much as 330 feet every single day. To put that in perspective, Earth's oceans only rise a few feet during high tide. On Io, the ground itself moves like a liquid. This constant grinding of rock creates so much internal friction that the moon's interior is a molten sea of magma. Because of this heat, Io is covered in over 400 active volcanoes. Some of these mountains are taller than Mount Everest, and they don't just leak lava. They explode with terrifying force. These volcanic plumes blast sulfur and ash 300 miles into space, so high that the material actually enters orbit around Jupiter. But the moon's violence doesn't stop at its surface. As Io moves through Jupiter's intense magnetic field, it acts like a giant electric generator. It develops a massive electrical current of about 400,000 volts and 3 million amperes. This creates a lightning bridge between Io and Jupiter's atmosphere, turning the space around the moon into a lethal zone of radiation that would fry any human or unshielded spacecraft in seconds. Io is a world that shouldn't exist in such a stable state. It is a moon that is being slowly eaten by its own internal heat, losing 5 tons of material every single second to space. It is a place of beautiful colors and extreme destruction. Titan. If you were to look at a radar map of this moon, you might mistake it for Earth. It is the only other world we know with carved riverbeds, rolling dunes, and vast shimmering seas. But the moment you drop beneath the clouds, the illusion shatters. You aren't in a paradise, you are in a chemical mirror universe. On Titan, the sky is a thick, murky orange. The rocks are made of frozen water ice, and the liquid in the seas is literally gasoline. This is the largest moon of Saturn, a world so massive it's bigger than the planet Mercury. It is wrapped in a dense nitrogen-rich atmosphere so thick that it creates a permanent ghostly twilight on the surface. But because the gravity is so low, Titan offers a physics-defying possibility. If you were to strap a pair of wings to your arms, the air is dense enough that you could actually fly through the orange haze like a bird. The true danger of Titan is its hydrological cycle. On Earth, we have water. On Titan, at -179 degrees Celsius, it is methane and ethane, the components of natural gas that turn into liquid. It rains lighter fluid here, feeding massive basins like Kraken Mare, a sea larger than the Caspian Sea on Earth. Because this liquid is much thinner than water, you couldn't swim in it. If you fell in, you would sink like a stone into a freezing light blue abyss. But beneath this flammable landscape lies a final chilling mystery. Miles under the gasoline lakes and the ice crust, there is evidence of a massive hidden ocean of liquid water. Titan is effectively a double-decker world. It is a prebiotic laboratory where the building blocks of life are falling from the sky like a slow, sticky soot, leaving us to wonder if something is swimming in the warm water below, or if a completely alien form of biology is breathing the methane above. Hyperion. If you were to drop a giant, jagged piece of pumice stone into the void of space, it would look exactly like this. Hyperion is a world that breaks all the rules of how a moon is supposed to behave. While most objects in the solar system are smooth spheres, Hyperion looks like a rotting, 160-mile-wide sponge. It is so porous that if you found an ocean large enough, this moon would actually float. This is the sponge moon of Saturn. Unlike almost every other moon, which spins in a predictable rhythm, Hyperion is in a state of chaotic rotation. Most moons are tidally locked, showing the same face to their planet at all times. But Hyperion is caught in a gravitational tug-of-war with the massive moon Titan. This causes it to tumble through space like a badly thrown football. Its orientation is so unpredictable that you could never tell where or when the sun would rise. It is the only moon in the solar system where the length of a day is constantly changing. The surface is a honeycombed nightmare. It is covered in deep, sharp-edged craters filled with a mysterious dark reddish material. These craters stay so deep because the moon's density is incredibly low. When an object hits Hyperion, it doesn't create a typical blast. It simply compresses the surface like a finger pushing into a sponge. But the real danger is invisible. As the Cassini spacecraft flew past, it detected a massive static electric charge coming from the surface. Because it is bombarded by solar particles while trapped in Saturn's magnetic field, the moon acts like a giant floating battery. If a spacecraft were to touch the surface, it would experience a discharge of over 200 volts. Hyperion is a tumbling, electrified sponge that refuses to follow the laws of gravity or time. Triton. If you were to look at the moons of Neptune, you would find one that is literally moving in the wrong direction. While every other large moon in the solar system orbits in the same direction as its planet's rotation, Triton is the only one that travels in a retrograde orbit. It is a massive frozen rebel that shouldn't be there at all. This is the largest moon of Neptune, and its strange behavior has led scientists to a chilling conclusion. Triton is not a natural moon. It is a captured world, a giant object from the icy Kuiper belt that was snatched by Neptune's gravity billions of years ago. But this capture came with a violent price that the moon is still paying today. The surface of Triton is a nightmare of cantaloupe terrain, a landscape of bizarre, bumpy ridges and depressions that look like the skin of a melon. It is one of the coldest places ever measured, with surface temperatures dropping to -235 degrees Celsius. At this temperature, nitrogen doesn't exist as a gas. It freezes into a solid white crust that covers the moon like a lethal shroud. But despite the extreme cold, Triton is far from dead. It is one of the few moons in the solar system that is geologically active. At its south pole, there are massive cryovolcanoes, ice volcanoes that blast plumes of nitrogen gas and dark, dusty smoke 5 miles into the thin atmosphere. These eruptions are powered by seasonal heating from the sun, which turns the nitrogen ice beneath the surface into high-pressure gas until the crust finally snaps. The real danger of Triton, however, is its ultimate fate. Because it orbits in the wrong direction, the moon is slowly losing energy due to tidal interactions with Neptune. Every year it's spiraling closer and closer to the planet it orbits. Eventually Triton will cross the Roche limit, the point where Neptune's gravity becomes stronger than the gravity holding the moon together. When that happens, Triton will be torn apart in a catastrophic event, shattered into billions of pieces of ice and rock. It is a moon on a death spiral, destined to be shredded into a massive glittering ring system that will one day rival Saturn's.